Hello, my name is John Didi, Professor of Political Science at the Community Colleges of Baltimore County. You are currently watching my Substack podcast on Maryland state politics, and today I am interviewing Baltimore City Council member Mark Conway, who is running for Congress next year against Kwasi Mfume. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John.
First question I want to ask is, why are you running?
Well, to kind of get into it, I think we've all seen how things have been going in DC since President Trump was inaugurated in January. It's been just 11 months, and we've seen our entire federal government switch over in dramatic ways and really challenge the foundations of our government and challenge the foundations of our democracy. We've seen ICE agents acting with impunity and pulling folks out of cars, breaking car windows, pulling people out of daycares, and separating families with no real accountability. We've seen cuts to, within the big, beautiful bill, cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, cuts to SNAP benefits, cuts to education and higher education, and just really gutting things that help folks do well here in America. It helps folks on the edge. It helps folks get into the middle class and stay in the middle class. It helps folks buy homes and otherwise. On top of that, very locally, we've seen direct threats to Baltimore, direct threats to send the National Guard to Baltimore, to chase a boogeyman that I think we are quickly proving is not really an issue with the decline in violent crime, the decline in crime generally. The justification to send the National Guard has been that crime is too high in Baltimore, and we've had some of the lowest crime rates we've ever had in Baltimore. So seeing this happen has been deeply unsettling, deeply troubling for me. I'm really worried about the direction of our country. And despite all the progress that we've had in Baltimore in the last 5 years, I'm worried that all that could be in jeopardy. And being on the city council has been phenomenal. I've learned so much. I've been able to accomplish so much. Um, but I realize I don't have the tools to fight this fight. My role in the council doesn't afford me any ability to stand up to the president. And the reality is there are only two branches that have the capacity to counterbalance the president. That is our courts and the Supreme Court and Congress. And I'm not qualified to be a judge. So then came the question, was this a time to consider, stepping up for Congress and being the change that I wanted to see?
What first got you interested in Democratic Party politics, got you interested in first running for city council? What was kind of that driving thing that made you decide to get involved in this business?
Yeah, I when I've been pretty civically engaged going back to college. What really got me into policy first was an interest in environmental policy and understanding the impacts that climate change has on our globe, but even everyday life and how decisions that we make and how broad policies further perpetuate those problems. And I became a little bit of an activist in college. Um, that led me into doing a policy degree at the University of Maryland, where I had an opportunity to work at the EPA, working on environmental policy and cleaning up the bay. And upon graduating in my degree, and getting my master's degree there, I left the EPA and started working here in Baltimore, and that's what brought me to Baltimore. And I had an opportunity to work in the mayor's office. I worked in the city stat office as an analyst and worked my way up as an analyst to become the deputy director and eventually the acting director in city stat. And during that time, for those that are not familiar with city stat, my job was to use data, analytics, maps, and regular meetings with city agencies to improve city services and make sure that you're getting your tax dollars worth of services from the city. And it really gave me a strong perspective on how the clock ticks and how the city works and how to really address issues and what the opportunities were that existed that we hadn't quite figured out how to take advantage of. Um, One of the best jobs that I ever had. Nonetheless, as I worked my way up in city government, I still had this penchant toward environmental issues, and so I wanted to start a nonprofit um, and pull together a whole plan to do so, and talk to some very smart people who are already running nonprofits, planting trees in underserved neighborhoods. When I talked to that person, they told me that was a bad idea because there were tons of nonprofits already planting trees, but even more, it takes a lot of work to maintain those trees, to plant those trees, and to fund it. Um, so I reached out to a local organization here, the Baltimore Tree Trust, and I thought I was going to join their board, and they were actually looking for an executive director, and they floated the prospect of me actually executing my plan with them. So um, I'm crazy, and I went for it. I left my comfy job in the mayor's office and started running a nonprofit here in Baltimore, planting trees in underserved neighborhoods, and added an additional component, training folks for jobs in tree care and landscaping so that they can get strong middle class jobs, so they can support their families and build a skill that they can, use for a lifetime. After doing that job for a couple of years and growing that nonprofit, moved up to where I live now in North Baltimore, and found out that the sitting councilman, Bill Henry, was not going to run for the seat again, that he was instead going to run for comptroller where he sits now. He won that race. And I thought to myself, and I talked with a friend, and I was encouraged to run. And so I thought that I could add something to the picture, having my experience working in the mayor's office and running city stat, but then also working directly in communities with folks who are kind of experiencing some of the difficulties of neighborhoods that are underserved, or folks that have never held jobs before, and trying to connect the dots to help alleviate some of those issues in those neighborhoods. And so that's what got me into it. And I've been on now I'm in my second term. I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee, and learned a lot, accomplished a lot. And I think we're seeing some significant progress over the last 5 years.
Trees things I'm always fascinated about because people think of trees as something beautiful, but you're planting oxygen for
Yeah.
as far as the environment and everything. My next question is, you have been a very vocal and strong advocate related to the serious situation regarding the opioid crisis. And I respect a lot that you've done in that area. Why do you think some people have been, basically put it politely, a little deaf to your message?
So I think it was interesting. I was just talking about this with some friends. I think the issue with opioids is a tough one. I feel like it's an issue that people tend to push or cast aside as an issue for the other people, when it's something that affects everyone in all families. And I think far too often the issues of mental health and addiction and opioid addiction are not given their due diligence, because maybe you or I are not dealing with it, but it's very likely someone that's dealing with an opioid addiction, and you know them well. And increasingly in Baltimore, we know that that is the case. So I think there's an urgency that I think is needed right now in order to address the issue comprehensively, that I'm still not quite seeing. And I've continued to do all that I can on the council, and through other means to adequately address the issue. This is making sure that we implement policies that change our systems, systems that can help refer people to support and help, but then also immediately get the medications that they might need in order to deal with either an overdose with naloxone, or withdrawal, or you know, systems that help people deal with the addiction, like buprenorphine. So, I've really been pushing for a comprehensive approach, not just supplying folks medication, but then also doing what we can to support the neighborhoods and the areas in which people dealing with these addictions um, are experiencing those traumas, and help to address those areas as well. But yeah, I think this is it's one of those hurdles, I think, for the city, that if we are able to fix some of the issues that we're seeing with addiction, specifically in certain areas where we have open air drug markets, I think we could have a sort of renaissance of sorts in those areas, because there are great organizations, great businesses, great neighborhoods, and great people there that are just looking for support on finding their way out of this addiction hole.
Read recently that the one thing you're not going to be doing anymore is accepting political action committee contributions from BG&E.
Yeah.
Running a campaign can be very difficult because you need campaign contributions. I understand that. Why did you make this decision to basically decide BG&E, I don't want your money?
There's a couple of reasons. I think it's important that in these roles, your councilman, your state representatives, your congress member are here to represent you, the people. And what that means is that you're not unduly influenced by folks that may have an agenda. And I think far too often we see corporations that have the means to pour into campaigns and support candidates that are going to push their agenda do exactly that when it comes down to a vote or a decision. And I think that can be problematic, especially when we know that we are seeing an energy crisis. Folks can't afford their energy bills. Right now, over the last 15 years, we've seen energy bills triple, triple the rate of inflation. Um, and so every day, people are struggling to pay their energy bills. We had a council meeting a few months ago where we were talking with BGE about the rate at which they were increasing. Um, we were seeing an increase in rates, and folks came out and talked about how difficult it was for them to pay the new bills. And I expect this will happen this winter as well. Um, Folks were having to choose between paying for medication and paying their energy bills. Folks were having to choose between paying their rent and paying for their energy bill. I saw personally my own energy bill double from last year. So I think this is an issue that is something that we are all experiencing. It's especially I think bad for some of our businesses of which there are no support programs for businesses right now who are dealing with high energy bills. We have support programs for folks in residential neighborhoods and residencies, but we don't have supports for businesses. And so this is going to, I think, have significant impacts on our economy and on affordability for everything. But the point here is, while all this is happening, politicians are still accepting donations from the energy companies that have an incentive to protect their own interests. And if we are accepting dollars from the same companies that are overcharging our constituents, that just doesn't seem right. And I never want to be in a situation where folks question why I make the decisions that I make. My decisions should always be in the best interest of the people of Baltimore.
Talked to some people recently basically about Maryland energy policy in general, and it's not very good, mainly because we're getting too much from other states. The question I'll ask related to that is, as a member of Congress, there's a lot of things you can do to kind of help promote certain things. How do you feel about maybe promoting the idea of more nuclear power in the state of Maryland? Working in Congress, they maybe build another nuclear facility, and to kind of ease the energy situation. Because right now, the people Pennsylvania, and I've been following this carefully, they're not very happy at all with Maryland at all.
So I think we've got to look at clean energy and ways to promote clean energy, and nuclear is clean. Nuclear comes with some complications, but I do think nuclear needs to be on the table if we want to meet the energy demands that we have right now. Um, I think there are tons of opportunities to also include solar, wind, and efficiency opportunities to make our systems more efficient. I think there's a great opportunity to do more local generation, and one of the things I've been really, really looking into is what we can do to bring more of that generation hyper local. Far too often we're relying on generation far, far, far away, which means you have to pay for transmission, and then you have to, bolster the grid in order to handle the transmission that's coming from, sometimes hundreds of miles away. If we can find ways to make more of that energy generation be local, whether or not that's putting solar on your rooftop or um, the wind in certain capacities, I think there's an opportunity for us to reduce some of our reliance on the broader markets, which is where we see prices go up significantly. But yeah, I think we have to look at it all because I think the energy challenges that we have now are only expected to get worse, and we want to make sure that we keep energy affordable.
One of the big issues that has been coming up very recently is related to the evils of gerrymandering. And it's a major problem. It's becoming more political than it's ever been before with
Yeah.
mid-cycle gerrymandering and all sorts of stuff. Member of Congress, you have the job, you're sitting there. What type of legislation would you propose to deal with this out of control gerrymandering problem? And would you consider the idea of maybe set to get Republicans aboard? You may feel that gerrymandering is helping you, but marry the idea of maybe dealing with the gerrymandering problem and marry it with voter ID legislation. How do you feel about dealing with gerrymandering in general? And what would you do on the federal level?
So I'll answer this in the short term, and I'll answer it in the long term for you because I think we're dealing right now with an existential crisis. We're seeing attempts across the country for, at the request of our president, to have Republican states flip seats to favor more Republicans. This is a huge problem. It's a huge, huge problem. It really could rock the sort of foundation of our democracy if your votes don't mean anything because they've been watered down. I think this really does change the calculus for the country. Um, to that effect, short term. In the short term, I think we should be doing everything we can to protect against that. And yes, I think that means that we need to be looking at changing our maps right now. I would normally not say that. But I think the challenge here is if we're in a scenario where we have the president and unfortunately Republicans moving at his whim, willing to do whatever it takes to further secure power and then use that power as they are using it today, they're not looking to give it back. They're not looking to make sure that this is a fair game. And I don't think they're looking to play fair by any means. So I think we need to make sure that we do what we can to make sure that we even the playing field today. Now, I think for the future, we need some better guidelines on how to redraw these districts, and we need to make sure that we never get ourselves in this situation again. And that might mean redoing the maps again so that they are more fair and that there is a true indication of the will of the people. But now, today, I think we need to change our maps. I think we need to make sure that we do whatever we can to protect our democracy because if we lose it in 26, there may not be anything left in 28. I think it's really important that we get it right now, and then I think it's really important that we never let this happen again after that.
Last question I'll ask is this. The district is a majority minority district, a lot of African American voters, a lot of also Hispanic voters and various other demographic groups. What would you say to those groups who have known the name Kwame Nkrumah forever and a day, and
Mhm.
to say to them, give Mark Conway a try and vote for me? What would you say to them?
I would say, I think Congressman Fume he is a legend. He has done great work in his time, and he is one of the politicians that I look up to most, actually. Um, that said, I think we are in a pretty unique moment in the history of not only our city, but our country. And in this moment, I think we need someone who is ready and willing and eager to fight for our democracy and do what it takes to make sure that we protect it. You need someone that is gonna do the work, is gonna dig into the issues, is gonna wonk out on policies to solve every American's everyday problems, the issues that we talk about at the kitchen table. I'm sitting at my kitchen table. I think this is going to take something new. It's going to take somebody that is actually in touch with um, the um, the sentiment and the feelings of everyday people. I'm a parent. I've owned my home for now 6 years. So, I'm living in the thick of my life right now. I'm seeing what people are dealing with. I'm feeling it myself. The anxiety of the direction that our country is going in, and what things may look like in 10 years, in 20 years, and the world that I then hand off to my two daughters. I I appreciate congressman. But I think we need somebody that is really thinking about the present and the future and can put both together in a cohesive way. And we need somebody that is eager and willing and able to fight back in a way that requires the energy to do it. And I'm here, I'm stepping up, I'm putting myself on the line because I am 100% sure that I'm able to do that. And I realize it is not traditional for someone to challenge an incumbent, let alone a well-respected incumbent like Kwesi Mfume. But I think now is the time, if ever, for us to reconsider the constructs of how we do politics in our party. I think the country needs bold leaders and folks that are going to stand up and do the work and represent the people and make hard decisions and not take money from the organizations that have too much sway in our politics and listen and address the issues that the people are looking for answers for. That's what we need. That's what I want to be. And this is why I think people should vote for me.
I want to thank you again for the time you've taken with me today, and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you, John.